call to speak here in front of all you people. Everybody knew Jack. You know, in a memorial, you try to say nice things. But Jack was the kind of guy that had a different kind of lifetime. And all of us know all the stories about him. And if you just said nice things, you wouldn't be talking about Jack. And the other thing is that if Jack was around to hear it, he'd look at you and say, "What are you doing? That's not me." So I wrote a little episode here of epilogue, whatever you want to call it, of some adventures or experiences I had with Jack. And they go a little off side here. It's Jack. He'd love it. So let me get going on this thing. I met a lot of people in my lifetime, but no one like Jack. He was the good, the bad, and the nutty. He was smart, funny, crazy, mysterious, one time honest, the next time playing games. He was a basket of personalities all rolled into one. He was a terrific fisherman, an excellent photographer. He loved to play poker, and unfortunately, he thought he could beat the casinos in Atlantic City with a lot of his own money and the borrowed money from the rest of us. You can't just describe Jack Yee in a speech. You would have to write a book. Those of you who knew him know exactly what I mean. There are lots of famous Jack Yee stories. I'm sure you heard a lot of them. So I thought I would tell you a few that I experienced that are not so familiar. Let's talk about a brave episode. Like the night Pope Noel's brand new truck, it was 1 week old, brand new truck, got stuck in Shagwamp. It was a nor'easter, and a few guys shot out to Shagwamp Point. Great time to fish. The tide was coming in, and halfway to the point, the ocean almost came onto that narrow road. Pope's brand new truck broke off the side of the road at that midpoint. His wheels on the left side were hanging in midair, and the belly of his truck was on the ground. A call went out, and a few of us shot out to Shagwamp. The truck looked hopeless. Pope was devastated, but not Jack. He started telling everyone, "Get out of your truck, get your shovels, and dig out the belly of the truck." We said, "Are you nuts? The truck will fall over the side and into the ocean. The tide's too high." Not to Jack. "Dig it out." So we all started digging. "Jack, what do we do now? The ocean's going to suck it away." Jack got into the truck. When the wave pulled back, he drove the truck down off the road and somehow, and into the water.
Oh my God.
And somehow spun it around and drove it back onto the road. None of us who were there will ever forget it. That was a good one. He was tough, and he was crazy. Let me tell you a not so good one. In Jack's apartment, the one on Lincoln Road, he put wires up just under the ceiling and hung up plugs, spoons, bucktails, Hopkins, you name it. Anybody who was in that apartment, you know what I'm talking about. There were just thousands of lures hanging from the ceiling. Some were new, some were old. A lot of them picked up on the beach or on the rocks. Thousands of them. He was a lure collector. One day, my neighbor gave me 6 beautiful man-made plugs carved by her late husband. Really special stuff, probably worth a lot. I made a mistake. I showed them to Jack. He said he needed them. He had to have them. "No, Jack, these are my plugs." He didn't stop. He came to my house in Amagansett several times in the next week. He had to have those plugs. Finally, I said, "Okay, Jack, you can borrow them for a while to show your friends, but they're still mine. I want them back." A few weeks later, Jack went to Atlantic City. When he came back, he held a yard sale to pay off his losses. Without telling me, he sold those 6 beautiful plugs for a total of 20 bucks. That was Jack. When it came to gambling in the aftermath, he couldn't help himself. Another story. Jack held a weekly poker game in the winter in his apartment on Lincoln Road. I played a couple of times, but I couldn't take all the cigarette smoke. When he had only 5 guys, he would call me, "Jack, I can't take the smoke." Jack called me back. He said, "There won't be any smoke." When I came to the apartment in a freezing night, all his windows and the door were open. You had to see these 7 guys playing poker. Coats, they were wearing scarves, hats, they were covered with blankets and gloves. And what a crew. Jack Yee, Bobby Michelson, Richie Michelson, some guy called the Barber, Richie Nessel, Jake the truck driver, Percy Heath. And when Richie Michelson heard that Freddie the Eel couldn't take the cigarette smoke, he came with 2 cigars. Try to pick a card off the deck with winter gloves. But Jack pulled it off, and because it was his place, he took $2 from every pot. This was Jack's own Atlantic City. Okay, one last Jack story. One fall, I was fishing on Bragan's Rock near Ditch Plains. Joe Bragan's Rock. What's that? You gave it away. I was the only guy out there because there weren't any fish. Finally, one night the fish came in. Big ones, lots of them. It was fantastic. I was so excited. The next day I told Jack. He said he'd be there that night, but he said but don't tell anyone else. In the early evening, before I went fishing, my wife and I went to the Montauk restaurant. Kathy Callan, a terrific fisherwoman, was our waitress. "Hey, Eel man, catch any fish lately?" I couldn't hold back. "I killed him last night, Kathy." And of course, Kathy, like everyone else, knew where I fished. Later that night, as Jack and I were bailing fish, along comes Kathy and her boyfriend, Greg. Jack started yelling at me. I thought he was going to kill me. We told Kathy and Greg to keep it a secret, but it didn't matter. The next day, Jack emailed the catch to his 50 to 100 email accounts. That night, you couldn't find an empty rock. I couldn't find a place to fish. There were over 50 guys there. "Jack, how come I can't tell one person where the fish are, but you can email it to 50 fishermen?" His answer, "That's how I make my money." Now, some of these stories weren't such nice stuff. Stories that maybe shouldn't be told at someone's memorial. But if Jack was still around and he heard them, there would be that little snickering smile on his face. He loved to play these games. I'm going to finish up with one little thing. We all had a certain appreciation for Jack. In our 2006 fishing tournament dinner, we gave Jack a Lifetime Achievement Award. He received a beautiful plaque and a real good, brand new $450 camera, which a few of us on the committee put the money together and bought it for him. A few weeks later, Jack went to Atlantic City. As usual, he came back in debt. There went the camera. But you know, in those days, if I needed some help, the first one I would call was Jack Yee, and he always came through. Miss you, Jack. Thank you.